idea to drive around frantically under any circumstances. I think to get back to what's going on here, we need to know, and this still hasn't been answered, was the home secured? Or was the doors open? Was anybody able to get in and out at will? We don't know that. Who's the biological father? What's his relationship to this little girl, and what was he doing during the time that she supposedly disappeared? And let's remember also, she lived in that house. She may have wandered with one of her brothers and sisters into that area. If the dogs followed a scent, maybe it was a 48-hour-old scent, but that certainly doesn't mean that she got up that morning and wandered in that direction. I think there are far too many unanswered questions almost to even speculate at this point. And I think for once in my life, I totally agree with one of the defense lawyers. I find it very difficult to believe that a little girl would be allowed to sleep in with so many other siblings in a very small house.
Yeah, well, you raise a lot of important questions. We're going to get to them one by one. But first, Sheila, Illinois, your question, your thought, Sheila.
Oh, Jane, it's all about Nancy, Jane, and Sam Crow these days. I'll tell you what, I just love you guys. You guys are my life. But anyway, I love you. And Nancy's doing great on Dancing with the Stars.
She is.
Yes, I just love that show. That just isn't, I'll tell you. But anyway, I have a problem with the sleeping and the timeline. I have a problem with her peeking in at 6:30 and letting her sleep till 9:30. I have a problem with that whole thing going on there. I think there's something fishy there. And I have a problem with her teeth missing. At 3 years old, I looked in my baby book, and my son didn't lose his front teeth up there till he was, in kindergarten, right around kindergarten. And I want to know where them teeth went.
All right, well, let's bring in Dr. Kathleen London. You're saying, this caller is saying that she has some missing teeth in the front, and you presume, well, okay, kids, their teeth fall out at a certain age. Does that add up, given her that she's 3 years old?
Yeah, there's a big variability to when teeth both come in and fall out. Like some kids get their front teeth at 2 months, and some don't get them till they're 15 months old. Unusual to have the four top front teeth, but I also don't know what else went on. Maybe she'd had a fall and lost them at an earlier time. So that doesn't do much for me. I had raised the same question earlier, about when I was looking over the story about a child that young sleeping till 9:30. But if she was sick, that does explain that to me. And the siblings may have been simply instructed to let her sleep. She's sick, and I don't want you getting sick. So that I agree. My kids never slept that late at that age, ever. But
let me get to this number of kids. Ruben Perdue, are there 5 kids total in this family? And if so, what are their ages?
From what we're told, 5 kids. 3-year-old Aliayah. She had a 4-year-old sibling, a 5, a 9, and an 11-year-old sibling. And as far as the kids being in the room, let's clarify this as well. From what we understand, the 9-year-old sibling was originally sleeping in the room with Aliayah until that morning when the mother came in to check on her at 6:30, had to get the stepfather off for work. At that time, the 9-year-old also woke up, went back with mom, back to mom's bedroom. Remember, this is a kid who was sick the night before, had to be brought home, was diuretic, left her pants that she had messed at another friend's house. They wanted to get her home and get her in bed. The mother and the 9-year-old left the room to allow a sick 3-year-old to sleep for a couple of extra hours. The 9-year-old was in the room. She was not completely alone. The 9-year-old left at 6 in the morning to allow her younger sister to sleep for a couple of extra hours in the morning when mom had to get stepdad off to work.
All right, so it strikes me that the 9-year-old is the key witness in this case. On the other side of the break, we're going to talk about how authorities approach interviewing the 9-year-old. Okay, it's week 2 of season 3.
We've did foot canvas in the neighborhood, used canines. Now we have divers in the water.
And a pink princess sweatshirt, her hair tied in a ponytail.
Hello, I'm Jay Velez Mitchell, in for Nancy Grace. We are on a race against time trying to find this missing 3-year-old, little Aliayah, last seen in her PJs. She vanished Saturday morning. Her mom says she checked on her at 6:30 and then came back at 9 and the child was gone. And there is a 9-year-old child who apparently was in the middle sleeping with her sibling. At 6:30, she gets up, according to mom, and leaves with the mother. So that 9-year-old child is going to be a key witness. I want to bring in the lawyers. Brad Cohen, how do police approach a 9-year-old child to determine what's fact, what's fiction?
You know, when it comes to children, you really have to have someone who's experienced in talking to children. The same way when you cross-examine a child or you direct a child in a trial, you really need someone who has experience in talking to a child, trying to figure out exactly what they remember, what they don't. You'd be surprised when it comes to 9-year-olds, their memory capability, and not only their memory capability, but also their reliability in terms of what they saw, what they heard. They're generally more reliable than adults because they're so truthful usually. It really depends on the amount of adult influence.
Clinical psychologist, that depends on whether or not they've been talked to, because a 9-year-old child is also very impressionable. Are they not?
Right. Well, I totally agree with the lawyer who's saying that you need to have a heightened amount of expertise. But yeah, someone's going to be truthful, but also if you're scared you're going to get in trouble, that's going to very much influence a kid as far as what they're going to say. They may believe that they're going to get in trouble for something that they wouldn't get in trouble for. The kids are very sensitive to pleasing a lot of times at the expense of the truth.
All right, Rose, Oregon. Your question or thought, Rose?
Hi, I was just wondering, no one said anything about the windows. Were they secure in the bedrooms? And someone could have came up to that river, like, in a boat and picked that little baby up, is what I'm wondering. The kids, I had 4 kids, and they scout around when we moved to places, and I'm sure they found that river.
Well, yeah, I don't know that we know any details about the windows. What I am hearing, Ellie Jostad, Nancy Gray's producer, is that it was kind of an older house or dilapidated in some way, shape, or form, where the door, at least the door, was easy to get in and out of. What do you know?
Right. Well, that is what the Sheriff's Department is telling us, that this was a relatively old door. It didn't shut very well. It didn't latch very well. And they said also that the screen door doesn't even really have a handle. You can just push it open. So, you know, they couldn't say for certain that someone would be able to get in easily or that she'd be able to get out on her own, but they said, you know, this door doesn't secure very well.
All right, I want to go back to Ruben Perdue and ask, apparently cops are talking to people. They are even reportedly polygraphing some people. Who are these people? Is it the stepfather? They can't do the mother because she's pregnant with twins, apparently very pregnant. Who are they polygraphing?
The information I got this afternoon was, at this point, they have no reason to believe that there's anyone who would to be considered a suspect outside of the home. They're focusing on what they call the immediate search area, which is the home and the surrounding, around 1,500 yards or so, basically from the home down to the river. The information I'm given this evening is that they are polygraphing and repeatedly interviewing extensively the family members inside the home, some people being interviewed as many as 6 times, Jane. They want to give them the opportunities to remember something, to maybe have something jog in their memory and go back over the story a couple of times now that they've had more time. They don't want to leave anything unturned.
Woodrow Tripp, you are a polygraph expert. What does that tell you?
It tells me a lot of things, Jane, and it has to do with the Amber Alert and everything else. Again, it's that immediate area, it's that home. There's no suspects other than those that are there, and that's where everything is leading to, the home. And again, keep this in mind. The mother is the only one that's been telling this story. You know, what I want to know as an investigator, and certainly as a polygraph examiner, is, you know, who else can tell me the story about her? Who else can verify that she was in bed? There's a lot of unanswered questions here, and it's certainly centered in that home.
Well, here's what disturbs me. We're hearing reports that the mother does not know who, or excuse me, the father does not know that he is the father. So let's quickly clarify that. Ellie Jostad, the father of little Aliayah does not know he's the father?
Right. That's what police are telling us, that apparently the 3-year-old Aliayah's father is not the stepfather. She has a biological father who was never told that he is the father of Aliayah. So he is apparently completely not in her life at all.
And so we have a little Aliayah who's missing. Then we also apparently have a 1-year-old or under a 1-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 9-year-old, and an 11-year-old, and the mother is pregnant with twins. You know, it raises a serious question, Dr. Kathleen London. At a certain point, you have to question whether you have the capacity to really adequately monitor all those children. This is a life or death situation, monitoring children.
Absolutely, you know, and this is like, you don't need a license to have a child. We see this all the time. I'm still wrapped around that you would drive around for hours. I understand you're missing your child, but I think back to times when my kids, the one time I can remember my kids missing, it was 5 minutes before I called the police, and it turned out they were to neighbors. Something doesn't add up here.
All right, well, we are going to continue to analyze this in a second, but it's week 2 of season 13.
Divers and ground crews searching for nearly 3 days trying to find Aliayah Lunsford.
Police say they've dealt with missing persons cases in the past, but Aliayah's is unlike any other.
A search that started in their Denison Street home has led crews here to the banks of the West Fork River. But police say they're still unsure if the river holds the answers to Aliayah's disappearance.
This little child is missing, and tonight, here on Nancy Grace, we are doing everything we can to find her. The clock is ticking. This is a race against time. She's been missing more than 48 hours, and of course, we have so many questions about her disappearance, but let's not assume anything. Remember, children like Jessica Lunsford, tragically kidnapped from her home and tragically found murdered, Mark Class, and then there's Haley Cummings, who was taken from her bedroom, never found, and Elizabeth Smart, who thankfully was found alive. Your thoughts, Mark?
Well, I think that we're going to have to really keep investigating this. I've looked at a map of this hamlet, and it's kind of out of the way. I think that whatever the answer is in this case is going to be very, very close to home. I don't think that this little girl is very far away from the home that she lived in.
Well, we pray that she is found okay. We're going to stay on top of this case until she is found. To tonight's